I tend to break out like right here on my neck. So is that more of an immunity issue?
Well, it could be two things. The endocrine, which even though it's represented on the jawline and that's its epicenter, they do see that it can, it does connect to those areas of the neck. So sometimes if somebody's getting like a bunch in here, I know it's more about like what we call monkey mind. It's more the endocrine, the pituitary, the pineal, the overthinking, over communicating, even thyroid. This is all up through this space.
Right.
Whereas if somebody was getting it down under their chin, we would still relate it to not the root chakra, but the uterus, prostate's here. So we would know this was more like reproductive. Like this is all reproductive space.
Right here. Okay.
The rest of it's endocrine.
And what about going down a little further on the neck?
If I went down on the neck, I would have to start considering what's going on in the lymphatic system. And how much flow is, and what's going on in the muscles. Like, what are the muscles storing? Because if the lymph isn't feeding the blood nutrients and the blood is feeding muscle nutrients, that's how the muscles are all, I don't have to control a thing. Because muscles are the emotion of control. So if they're getting juice from the lymph and blood, because that's their feeding, they're like calm. But the moment the lymph gets dry, or there's holding patterns in there, or even holding back voice patterns, sorry, got yelled. I just realized, I'm like, I just spoke to her, sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't really know that about you, but I can tell that it came from, I would read someone and be like, I'm thinking communication, I'm thinking maybe the lymph and blood is dry, maybe there's low blood pressure. If you're a glass of water, the water's at the bottom of the glass, it's not at the top of the glass. So the drier we get, the more dry the top of our head is first. That's why we get kind of wacko and like, who am I? I can't remember anything. And, your eyes start shifting around and you're like, what's that noise? It's like, we're starting to dry out. Everything starts becoming ultra sensitive nerve endings because they're dry.
Right.
And then the muscles start tightening up. So my feeling, if I just look there, would be lymph, blood, muscle dry.
Okay.
With some holding patterns of the throat chakra. And then that's so much information to go with, right?
Yeah.
That's so much information to go with. Because now it's going to be like, juice it up, warm it up, get in there with the gua sha, open it up. Okay. And I'll definitely teach that next week. Everything about the lymphatic.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So then we have the stomach. This is our primary metabolic rate, the stomach right at the cheek. Okay. And as we go further down, the stomach is connected to this whole entire region around the mouth, which is really, like, keep in mind, because I also teach the lips. They have their own map connected to your dental. Every tooth and every part of your lip has its own map. I can only give you so many of the maps. But it has, and it's all digestive. So remember, this is digestion connecting to your stomach digestion. And then you've got dimples, the space of dimples. This is the reproductive glands, testes, ovaries. I'll give you an example of this. Like, you might have genetic dimples and you do not have that issue, but it does mean that you have the bloodline, you have the RNA DNA for that issue. So everything you see doesn't mean you're going to get exactly what your parents did. You might still just have the genetic makeup, but it may not be in your destiny. So I definitely have asked people about dimples, and they just don't have any reproductive issues they can really tell me about. But I can't tell you that my dad has dimples, my sister, they both have really deep, beautiful dimples. I wanted them for a while. I love them. They're dimples. They smile. It's just like lights up the room. And now my sister, 2 of her 4 kids were born with dimples and have the same exact dimples. And what I can't deny is that all 4 of them have kidney and genitourinary or reproductive based issues. Every one of them. Even as little boys, there has been like ongoing issues, genitourinary. So I'm like, wow, it's interesting that in my family, the people with the nipples have reproductive issues, you know? But it might be genetic and not in your destiny, so you don't want to like get scared by what you know. In fact, why not just prevent it? Like I have so many signs of diabetes. I'm just going to work on prevention. I'm not going to act like, ooh, hope I don't get it. Cross my fingers. I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to look at it. Okay? And then underneath, if you look, underneath right here, which is actually called our philtrum line, where these two little lines, these little canyons, you know, plateaus in a canyon kind of join. So this is called your philtrum line, Philtrum. It's considered your destiny line in Tibetan medicine. I'm not really into reading destinies, so I don't always use it as a thing to look at with a client, because, you know, narrow and wide at the bottom, like this is healthy at birth to end of life, and later life unhealthy. And then like this is like you're born unhealthy and you have a healthier life as you go along. And this is like healthy, midlife unhealthy, and then healthy again. But I don't really like to be all like, looks like you're gonna get healthier when you're older. Don't worry about nothing. You know, or like, looks like you're gonna be unhealthy when you get older. Like, you know, that doesn't sound good. So, but I think it's a really cool thing to know, and it connects to your heart, lung, bloodline.
Do you believe it, even if you don't tell people that?
Well, I mean, I have definitely had people, you know, I have so many clients I can hang with and ask questions, so it has added up a lot. But if I was going to be totally, completely honest with you, mine doesn't add up to my story. So then I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, mine doesn't add up. But it has added up, you know? So I think there's more to it than maybe was even taught to me, to be honest. But I can tell you one cool thing about this philtrum line is like our eyes are way over here when we're embryos. They're way over on the side of our head, like up above our ears where they are. And as we form into the first 12 weeks of our life, which is first trimester, first 3 months, we are moving our eyes to the forward to meet the world. And the moment that our two hemispheres have formed and come together, and as soon as your eyes are set in your forward position, and they get there through that journey of 12 weeks, how important is that first 12 weeks? That's when this line is formed. When your eyes meet the bridge, the philtrum line is formed. And that's kind of cool. Right? I mean, that's just kind of really a cool concept of like, wow, that's where I like decided to be here. You know, this is where I decided, like, I'm gonna be forward and go to this place. I'm gonna do this. You know, human thing again. But I just think that's really a great thing to think of. So this is the entire, oh, there's CNS, right, in the ears. Central nervous system. So I want you to know when Dr. Laud does these beautiful, and I don't think I did put it in here, I tried to just really, yeah. But when he shows pictures of the ears and all the nerve endings of the ear, which are the same as acupuncture, I mean, you know that people in China, their bodies have the same thing inside as people in India. And the same in Europe, right? We're all the same parts, right? Okay. So each culture came up with the same concepts because it's the same body. So I can use Chinese medicine meridians, I can look at Ayurvedic, what are called nadi lines, you know, the nadis and marmas. I can also look into Chinese or any other philosophy because, you know, the same exact map it's just us map. And I think that's nice to know. So this is all central nervous system, the rim of your ear. And when you look at an ear, it actually shows that this is the butt. It's shaped like a fetus. And this is the butt. And then down here is the head. And it's like a fetus in fetal position. So they always show the ear as the fetus because it's the forming of your spine and your central nervous system, the outer rim of your ear. So like when I met my guru, I had my hair up and he said, "What, let me look at your ear." And I was like, "Okay, you know, which one?" And he was like, "That one." And I do, I have this nick. I have this nick right here out of my ear that I was born with. And he goes, you have a part. There was a, something was going on with your nervous system when you were in the womb. And I was like, "Really? Where's it at?" And he said, "Yeah, it's like right here where you would be, you know, like at small intestines or like the digestive tract of your spine reading." And I was like, "Well, I was born with a tumor in my esophagus." And he was like, yes. You know what I mean? Like it was like he just really saw that right off. And was like, that reminds you to take care of your digestion when you look at that. So he, you know, I was taught that like all these things are reminders. So you get to practice Ho'oponopono with your beauty. You know the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono? It's, I don't always say it in order, but it's, I am sorry, thank you, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me. So that's their idea of compassion, you know. So I like to use that sometimes when I'm like, and then it's like, wait a minute, this is all just trying to tell me something. Am I gonna stop and listen, or am I just gonna hate myself? It's an option. A lot of people do it. Yeah. Okay, so this is the whole face. Isn't it amazing how much you can kind of like memorize it and be like, whoa, I think I can remember this. But you got a map anyway.
I'm wondering, I know that it was on the specific spots, like say massaging, that
Yes.
I find myself massaging that all the time. Does it affects
You are
the area?
massaging the nerve endings just like when you do body work and you slide up someone's meridian
Okay.
and you're massaging the nerve meridian. Same thing on your nerve endings.
Okay. Do you think maybe if someone it's too difficult to massage, do you ever go to like the
Well, usually when someone's a little hesitant for massage, or I can tell there's a lot of pain, or like they're not used to touch but they're really trying, I often start on the face and the head anyway, because I like to figure out how to kind of like calm down all those nerve endings, just like how we start on the feet or the hands. You like kind of just relax and ground out the nerve endings so that the nerves are a little bit more like, okay, do whatever you want. So yes, face massage is so relaxing.
What about right here? I think you call it third eye, but I guess that's what you call it.
Yeah, third eye is not an organ. You have liver, spleen, and your liver, spleen work together. So your spleen is dependent on your liver. It only gets what the liver gives it. So they are constantly working together, so they're here. The third eye is more connected to your literal, like, third eye chakra, and it's also connected to your pituitary gland, which is of the third eye. And the only thing I can tell you in that space, there's two things I've been taught specifically. If you have a line in the middle, or if you have a line in all three, it says the same thing. If you have a line down the middle, it shows that you're cynical and you're over-analyzing. Those are just the words that are in the book. You know what I mean? But like there's a cynical, there's a like nothing ever goes my way, or like this, you know, this is bound to, something's bound to come up, or, you know, or just, you know, cynical is a word I think of judgment too. But that would be a concept there, you know? And then the other thing is that I can tell you about that space is there is a really strong belief. This comes from Dr. Lod. He has a very strong feeling about this. And he was taught that if you ever wake up with a line that you don't normally have there, or if you wake up with a red dot, like as if you have a bindi on your forehead, you are to be so careful on that day. It is like this very big omen, for lack of a better word, that you are accident prone and that something is bound to collide with you if you don't retreat. So, you know, I mean, I just told my other class this the other day because I taught this. I was like, I had one day and I canceled my day because it was like, I'd never seen anything like that, and I woke up with it. It was years ago. And I canceled my day and I watched my timing and I, tried not to interact with too many people to not have any collisions. And I didn't have any collisions. But collisions can happen at home just as well as leaving the house. So I was like, well, nothing happened, but I did listen to my teacher. You know what I mean? And so I can't really prove it.
I just find a lot of relaxation from like massaging or just.
Oh, well,
when
that's
I'm-
just
when
your
I'm really
pituitary.
stressed, I just immediately go to this and I just totally.
Yeah,
helps.
I'm into that too. I have that same thing. It's so calming for me.
Yeah.
Your pituitary gland is the governing gland for your reproductive, so it actually governs your root chakra. So it is literally a place of grounding.
Mm.
The pineal gland?
The pituitary.
Oh.
Yep, the pineal's up in the crown chakra. So you really are like going to, you're kind of going to your, you're calming your mind as a way of sedating and kind of landing in your root. Yeah.
What about right in the crevice of your nose?
Okay, so this is all lung, and like when we get into skin, which is next, if you have like blackheads, for instance, that's going to show dry plaque in the lungs. If you have whiteheads, that would show there's like mucus, wet. Whiteheads are more wet than blackheads. Do we all know those from experience? No? Okay. Yeah, so whiteheads are definitely more wet, so it shows wetness in the lungs. And if you get really cracked open in there, then there's dry lungs. And sometimes when people have issues like long-term allergies or have had really major pneumonia or maybe asthma, you will sometimes notice that this is not the deepest line in the world and that there's actually little tiny adhesions. There's like just a little bit of skin buildup in there showing you the scar tissue in the lungs. Sometimes I've seen it, sometimes I haven't, but I've definitely looked for it and been like, dang, it's there again. So, yep. So that would still be lung related. So yeah, thanks Stace. So there's another thing to know which is like related to stomach to your mouth digestion, and it's these lines right here. Like notice my spleen one is a little bit more apparent. This one's not as apparent. So it's matching, like I have this whole spleen thing going on. Okay? Some people have much deeper lines than mine. Those lines are directly related to, if you want to look up for a minute, it'll make more sense, liver, spleen, malabsorption. It shows that there is a digestive, blood-related malabsorption. When you have malabsorption, there's a heart-lung issue and there's a digestive issue. You don't just get malabsorption in the gut alone. It happens with lack of oxygen of the lungs. Malabsorption is lung, heart, like blood flow, oxygen, and then also the true not being able to absorb in the gut.
So liver, sorry, you said that.
Liver, yeah, so liver's on the right, same with this side.
Liver stuff, liver lung.
Liver spleen,
Liver spleen malabsorption
yes, connected to lung,
connected to lung.
yes. You always want to think about your oxygen levels whenever you have a malabsorption picture.
So is one the beginning that leads to the other? Digestion leads to lung?
Digestion leads to the lung issue. Digestion is always kind of first and foremost in the concept. Yep. Yep. Seem right? So let's move on. Lots of things to do tonight. And let's look at skin assessment. Page 6. Let's look at skin assessment. Skin is representing what is chronically imbalanced in the digestive tract and has affected the tissues. Where you see skin symptom on the face correlates directly to the organ on the face map. Now, I really should add a little bit in there. There should be another line that says where the eruption is on the face or body is where it matches the map. So I may not be teaching all the meridians on the body, but if you look them up tonight online or whenever you want, It's not gonna be hard to find where those meridians are. So if somebody comes to me and says, I have eczema, my next question is where? Because I want to target the meridian or the organ that's affected. Okay, so your glands, actually a different gland is in every joint. They intersect. All your nerve endings for adrenals are literally in your knees and your elbows. Your ankles and your wrists are reproductive. So I should start like this. Ankles and wrists are reproductive. This is bonus material. It's not in your book. So reproductive is wrists and ankles. This one, lung. Primary lung point. So, and then here you got adrenals in your knees and your elbows. Okay, then your hips are pancreas. Hip sockets. And then you have your diaphragm, which is all, your whole diaphragm and rib cage is going to be your thymus. And then you have your clavicle and your shoulders, which are thyroid. And that goes all the way to the mandible. So from the mandible all the way down to the shoulders is all thyroid. And then you have your frontal bones on your face. The frontal joint bones right here is all going to be pituitary. And then you have your cranial plates, which represent pineal. So if somebody has a rash in any one of those, since I have to say this because rashes show up on the joints a lot. And in like little areas, where there's like something could live, like this joint should not crack. That means it's dry. There should be fluid in there. But we know there's empty space in our joints, so things can get trapped in there and cause skin problems. That's why eczema shows up on the elbows or on the knees or, that type of thing. So really it should say not only is it the face map, but it's your meridian map. And then what if someone gets a rash right on their liver? Guess what? Thyroid liver. You know what I mean? So you could also just look at the whole body this way. Okay?
Would bites be the same thing? Bites showed up on your body?
Bites?
Just by randomly, if you got bit, is that going to be toward the key area?
Well, there is something to be said for that because in Ayurveda and in Tibetan medicine, they don't believe an accident is an accident. They don't believe in accidents. So they believe that actually insects and things that crawl on the earth have a higher consciousness than us. They do have that as a core belief. I know, huh? Yeah. Go Tibetans. But you know what I mean? And so they would say the bug knew where to go and give you a sign. They would never think just like, oh, it just happened to bite you there. So that is a good question. And there is core beliefs around that.